Hello everyone, this is Chris, and I have been very busy since you've seen the Rome last. And if we fly up to the sky, we could really get a sense as to what I've been busy with, and yeah, I've been doing a lot of terraforming since you've seen it last. Last time I built up this mega mountain up here with this mega river right here with some land around here, but nothing too much, and since then I've been doing so much more work around this place. And for some reason the grass is taking literally forever to grow. Like it's been like at least a couple hours and it's still taking forever. But I think the reason why I'm doing all this work off camera is mainly because this season is slowly but surely coming to an end. I believe we're going to have this episode and 2 more episodes of this season before it's completely finished. Which is why in between episodes, I'm trying to get as much done as I possibly can with all this mega terraforming project. And there is still so much more we're going to have to do with this. But I think I'll do the majority of the terraforming outside of videos and outside of camera because you've seen me place a whole bunch of dirt already this season. You've seen me done it over and over again. And you know what? I think I'm getting a little bit tired of just, building and then recording and then building and then recording, so I'd rather just build, and then record. Oh, and one more thing, I know this episode, at least the beginning of it's been very talkative, but you remember me mentioning how last episode we're trying to get a world download? Well, on Discord, we got this message from It's Palmer saying, it's possible, which means, for at least this season, it's slightly more likely. It's not completely confirmed we're getting a world download, but it's at least a little more likely than usual. But okay, that's enough talking and walking around. Let's actually get to work on some things. And what I'd like to do to start off this one episode is to actually flesh out this one wonky village we started making a couple episodes ago. Because I mean, right now we have a barn, we have 3 houses, and we have a well, and that really doesn't count and qualify for an entire civilization and city where the rest of it, where like 60% of the rest of this place is actually completely dead. To away with you, ye old structures. The thing I like about these structures is you have to think and not think at the same time. Like, you obviously want to do a good job and things like that, but because, it's sort of unsymmetrical, you don't really have to think exactly making it look exactly the same on every single side. It's both a lazy way and an unlazy way on building. Okay, that was a horrific way I'm putting that, but it makes it easier and slightly more difficult. Now, that's not a good way of putting it either. Let's just say I like building in this style. That's a good way of putting it. And here's the next one, and yeah, again, it looks very similar to the ones we've already made, but just the angles and things like that makes it look just different enough. But even though they are different in the shapes, they still look fairly similar. But I think to try and change that up, let's try and work on this church. And honestly, from looking at it, I really don't even know where to start here. I think for the most part, we'll keep the shape, but just change out the materials. And of course, try to add a little bit of Wonk here and there. Okay, I'm not gonna lie, this one, very difficult, very don't know what I'm doing, very just placing blocks around the place, and is very lost. And after a couple hours of work, I am still uncertain as to whether I like this or not, but I managed to build this little place? I sound like I was questioning myself there, but I did build this, and I did build it, I guess, in sort of a classic style church I would picture inside my head, but trying to add a little bit of Wonk, and I don't know if I managed to do it that well right here, but you know what? I'm gonna call it done, I'm gonna call it good, I'm gonna say this church is complete, and I'm gonna move on. And maybe instead of just adding more and more houses, what if we were to add maybe sort of market stands or something like that? Because yeah, I know a traditional village usually just has a whole bunch of houses and stuff, but I think maybe just adding a little place for shops might be a decent idea as to how to break this up a bit. And maybe this street could be the street we have a whole bunch of stands around the place. And again, I still want to try and add a little bit of Wonk here and there to these stands, and it's going to be much more difficult on a smaller scale. But oh well, I'm up for these little challenges right here. Okay, what do we think of this now? Actually, I think that looks pretty good. That actually looks pretty good. Like, you can still tell it's a market stand, but it just has, like, so much more Wonk to it. But maybe if we add just a couple other things here and there just to really sell the fact that it's a market stand, and then I think we can move on to another one. I'm really enjoying working on this little wonky town. Like, it's literally so far outside of my comfort zone that it probably circles back around to make it that much more enjoyable. Now, was the first one a fluke, or am I actually making something that looks pretty good? That looks pretty good. This looks pretty good. Though maybe we want to go out just a little bit more here and there, but Yeah, and I'm really annoyed that this season's coming to an end in a few weeks because I'm just starting to build some little place right here that I'm really enjoying working on. You know what, let's not linger on about the fact that we have limited time left in this season, and let's just focus on just having fun with what time we have left. And I think we certainly have, because we built these other 3 little stands right here. And all of them look pretty similar, but because of how wonky and everything they are, they look so different from each other. And if we fly up to the sky, we can get a real sense as to what this actually looks like. And yeah, some are smaller than others, some are wider than others, some are much more different than others, and it all just looks so much fun. So much fun to be down in some place like this. But wait, why didn't I path things around? Like, that would have been an extra 2 seconds after doing all this. And I guess I should say that I want most of these paths to be fairly wide, much wider than the normal villages, just, I guess, to, I don't know, seem like it's been trampled on the grass much more than usual. And I guess while we're doing some detail work here and there, we might as well add in some lamps. And there we go. And if we have a look back here, yeah, it's a fairly simple street right here, but it just seems so cozy going down here and doing all your shopping. And there's still so much more I want to do with the wonky town, but because we have limited time, I think we ought to add at least 1 or 2 more different types of buildings, and then just tear down the extra ones. This next build I built right here, I wanted it to be much more horizontal than vertical. And yeah, I think I actually managed to nail that style pretty well. Also, I added a little bit of lava down here because I kind of wanted this to feel somewhat like a blacksmith, and I think in some ways it kind of feels like that. Next up, I want this building to be one of the more tall ones in the town. And if we look at it from afar, oh, it looks almost identical to the one we built right next to it, and it kind of looks a little bit tall, though it looks pretty much the exact same height as the one we built right next to it. And yeah, it only looks like a block or 2 higher than this one. Now, I don't really want to call this a fail, but I do want to call this, not intended. But this final building I'm working on, I think somehow gets the style across I want it to get across, and I wanted this one to really feel like it's leaning over, like any breeze of wind or something like that could just blow it over. And yeah, I think anything like that, it could just topple over. Just looking at it makes me feel like it's gonna fall over. And I think that's enough for the building part of the Wonk town, and I think now we should really focus on the little details with lamps, with like foliage and other things like that around the place. And I figured time-lapsing just a little bit of the process, just because I thought it'd be just a little bit more satisfying, and after seeing the time-lapse footage, I can definitely say that it was. But now, take a look at this. Everything now, with all the foliage, with all the grass, with all the path blocks around the place, feels much more like the wonky underground city that I pictured in my mind. And I bet it'll look even better from the sky. So if we take up from the sky in our traditional fashion and fly back down, yep, every single thing right here looks just absolutely fantastic and absolutely kind of amazing. Like, I'm really sad that this season's coming to an end in a couple weeks, because something like this, I'm just so happy to be able to work on. But you know, I'll be slightly less sad if we get a world download, hint, nudge, Palmer. So even though the hidden town of Wonk is completely finished, the hidden part of it kind of isn't, and I think, like, I'll just work on that again outside of video, outside of camera, just to get that done, and then I'll come back and show you the finished, products when all this training's done. But now time to move on to something else in the realm. And that something else is actually over at James's base. Because what James has worked on his mega tree are not only those incredible leaf placements all over the place, but also these little chain places, because what we're actually allowed to do is actually build a tiny little house around these one little chain places. And I figured, how funny would it be if I built something that was just so out of place from this entire base? But then James said that it had to be family friendly and PG, which did limit my options pretty drastically, but I still think I have a pretty decent idea as to what I could do. So a lot of these houses we see around the place, along with the tree itself, is sort of, I guess, old-fashioned and, I guess, relatively simple. Well, what if I were to build sort of just a really big, well, not too big, but a pretty decent sized, just modern style house, very white, very clean, and very just out of the ordinary for this one base. And yeah, comparing my building to the other buildings, it's gonna be, I think, just a little bit bigger. Or I guess because I'm going for the more modern aesthetic, it's gonna feel a lot bigger because it's gonna be just a little bit more, boxy, I guess. To put it simply, it's gonna be pretty much about a 9x9 area. Mainly because I want to try and see if I can make a 2-story small little house, and I think a small little 9x9 area might be just enough space. Now that we have the framework in place, let's have a quick look. Yeah, it seems a little bit bigger than these other ones, but not by much. I think I might be able to get away with this. And if I can't, then James just, let me know and I'll shrink it a bit. And when I think of modern houses and things like that, I think of a lot of indents and a lot of windows. And this tiny little house is certainly gonna have a lot of those. And I think instead of having a door, I'm instead gonna do something I've done for my castle base quite a bit, and just having glass panes, I guess, sort of, weaving its way out kind of like this. That way, 1, it does still look a little bit modern, 2, we don't have to add sort of frameworks for a doorway, and 3, I just like it. I just like the way it looks. And yeah, no matter how much I right-click, these won't close, but you know what? Imaginary doors are just as good as normal doors. But now it's time to work ourselves upstairs. And I didn't really have much planned for the interior of this place, but I better add at least a few things around the place. Maybe a bed, crafting table, furnaces, and chests. And hopping back over to this one house over here, if we're... no... I don't know why I added the dramatic effect of me sounding like I was falling away from that one house, but okay. But if we fly out and away, yeah, actually, that fits in annoyingly really well. Like, I was trying to build something that didn't quite fit in too well, but this actually does fit in actually really, really well here. And speaking of things that fit in, I have one more little plan I want to do in today's video, which relates to this little thing right here. Now, if you've not been keeping up, basically a few weeks ago, I believe the siblings came over to my base, spewed a whole bunch of crafting tables around my place, and I got a little suspicious, so I built this little sus sign right here, and then they retaliated by building other signs over at my base, and I figured, just to close the chapter on this one crafting table madness style thing, I built something over at their base that, you know, is made out of crafting tables, but somehow actually fits in with their style and theme of their base. And I think the best hint I could give as to what I'm planning on building is, something tree related. Okay, to put it simply, I'm building a crafting table stump, which might not sound too exciting, but actually I think in the end will actually look fairly good for their base. Though it is just a little bit annoying building this thing because this entire time I have to actually crouch. Otherwise I'll just keep looking into the crafting table UI. And then I think we just need to place in this, and now I think our nice little crafting table stump is finished. And look at that. That actually weirdly looks really like a stump, kind of. Like, you would imagine a stump actually to be a little bit more spiky, I guess, on the top. You know what, there's no stopping us. Let's add a little more, spikiness to the top of the stump. Yeah, I think that actually looks pretty good. That actually looks fairly, decent. And I think just to sell the points of not being able to destroy this, I think I'm going to name this thing. I think I'm going to name it, Cal the crafting table stump. Yeah, that's a good name. And I think that's a good point to end off this episode. So, yeah, I hope you enjoyed this one. I hope you'll enjoy the last 2 episodes of this one season. But for now, thanks for watching, and I'll see you all later.